He destroyed her entire narrative in seconds, exposing how the department meant to protect Americans may be targeting citizens and legal immigrants while hiding behind national security excuses. What you're about to see is the moment that truth cornered power and forced it into the light.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for being here. You know, Michigan's a border state, so we need each other. We have a very big bridge that's being inaugurated, ribbon cut in September. We need that to be fully staffed. We have a lot going on in Michigan as a northern border state, so we need each other. But what I'm concerned about is that you've taken the mandate to close off the border beyond going after, as you say, the, quote, most dangerous illegal immigrants. I'm a CIA officer. I work my entire life to protect the homeland. If someone's here illegally, they need to not be here. They've committed a crime by being here. They need to go back to wherever they're from. But my concern is that either through sloppiness or intent, you have gone far beyond going after the, quote, most dangerous illegal immigrants and gone into legal immigrants who were given the ability to be here, and even American citizens. And when I think about that, you know, there are lots of people in this country, including me, who have families who fled this kind of environment where they have no rights, where they have no due process, where they don't have habeas corpus. So while I'll be the first to say, coming from a state that was won by Trump, that there is a mandate to do something about the border, I think it is absolute dangerous overreach to go beyond that and start picking up American citizens and people who have the legal right to be here, lawful immigrants who have done everything right. So first and foremost, do you acknowledge that your department has made some mistakes, any mistakes, in going after either American citizens or legal immigrants here in the time that you've been in office?
We have not deported any U.S. citizens
detained?
or people get interviewed. If they get interviewed and they go through that process and we find that they're U.S. citizens or legal immigrants, they stay in the United States.
Have you deported
we have to go through the vetting process.
Have any American citizens, including children, been deported during your time in office?
We have children that mothers have chosen to keep with them. So those
by my count, you have 10 American citizens, including children with cancer, who have been deported out of the country. I understand you're saying it's their choice.
But it's hard to imagine
a small child having a choice. But have you gone after legal immigrants? Again, your standard in your opening statement was the most dangerous illegal immigrants. Does that include PhD students and master's students at colleges across the country, unarmed? Are they the most dangerous illegal when they have status and no weapons?
I don't decide who gets status through a student program. The Department of State decides that, and we enforce it.
Oh, come on.
That's what our Department of Homeland Security does.
I just would offer that, again, I have no qualms with going after folks who are here illegally. That is not my concern. That was part of my job, was to prevent people from coming here illegally in a former life. My concern is you're sending a chill down the spine of America by going after people who either have legal status or American citizens. And when my colleagues ask you about habeas corpus, and you say, literally, we can review the tape, that you believe it's a right the president has. You sat here in front of all of us and swore an oath to the Constitution, and that is not at all what habeas corpus is. It is a right that we all get, that American citizens get, that people who are in the United States legally have. So my concern is it's complete overreach. I don't think American citizens, even those who voted for Trump, believe that you should be able to just grab someone off the street, sloppy, who has the legal right to be here, and certainly an American citizen. And I just am concerned that while you say you're going after the most dangerous folks, what you're actually doing is going after folks for political reasons, right? A PhD student that's unarmed is not at the top of the list.
And we're not deporting U.S. citizens, and we're not deporting people who have legal status here.
10 American citizens
have been deported. If the children have gone with their parents, it's because their parents wanted them with them. So let me ask you another question about cybersecurity. You know, you've cut $500 million from the budget. What specific programs are you cutting? Because there are programs that really aid states and locals that we depend on for cybersecurity. And we know that right now, while we may have good security in the federal government, if you are a local state official,
you're depending on the federal government. So have you cut the ISAC program, the program to states and locals on cybersecurity?
The president's recommended budget has a reduction in $491 million.
Does it cut that program? I've heard the talking point.
And what it's doing is putting CISA back on mission.
And it's ensuring that
cybersecurity is going to be strengthened.
You cannot say it's the most cyber secure administration if you're cutting the program to my state and to your state.
It will
and if you look on record, that's what you've cut. I yield back.
Time has expired. Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, good to see you.
What you just witnessed was a chilling confrontation between constitutional accountability and an executive power determined to avoid every question that threatened its narrative. The Congresswoman laid out the stakes clearly. A border state like Michigan depends on real national security, real enforcement, and real precision, not a sweeping dragnet that confuses legality with political discretion. Her questions weren't abstract. They weren't partisan. They were the most fundamental questions a democracy can ask. Has the government crossed the line and begun detaining or deporting American citizens and legal immigrants under the guise of protecting the homeland? And instead of offering clarity, the Secretary delivered a fog of evasions, contradictions, and bureaucratic sidesteps that revealed something far more dangerous than incompetence, a willingness to blur constitutional limits when those limits become inconvenient. Let's break the moment down. The Congresswoman asked whether DHS had deported American citizens. Not complicated, not philosophical, a fact-based question, and the Secretary responded with a technical loophole that mothers chose to keep their deported children with them. That answer alone exposes a terrifying abuse of language. A 4-year-old with cancer does not choose to leave his country. A child does not elect exile. And a government does not get to avoid responsibility by hiding behind a parent's impossible decision. When an agency's defense for deporting American children is that parents chose to take them, you're not looking at law enforcement. You're looking at institutional self-protection. And it didn't stop there. The Congresswoman pressed on legal immigrants, students, researchers, individuals who followed every rule to be here. These are people who contribute to American security, innovation, and economic strength. But instead of defending their rights, the Secretary tried to shift responsibility to the State Department, ignoring the obvious truth. DHS is the agency that detains and deports. DHS is the agency that executes removals. DHS is the agency that must know the limits of its own power. And when she was asked whether innocent, unarmed PhD students represent the most dangerous immigrants, the category she claims to focus on, she could not say no. She could not affirm the obvious. Instead, she leaned into a script meant to justify sweeping authority without acknowledging the boundaries that protect the innocent. That is the systemic issue revealed here. When institutions gain power designed for one purpose, removing dangerous individuals, they often expand it quietly, subtly, and without public debate. Today it's the dangerous. Tomorrow it's the suspicious. The next day it's the politically inconvenient. That is how civil liberties erode. Not in dramatic collapses, but in carefully worded evasions from officials who refuse to say what they cannot legally do. And when the Congresswoman confronted the Secretary about habeas corpus, a right so fundamental it predates the founding of the country, the Secretary tried to reinterpret it as a presidential right. That alone should make every American furious. Habeas corpus is the right of the people, not the right of the president. It is the shield the Constitution places between citizens and government overreach. It is the mechanism by which unlawful detention is challenged. It is the backbone of American freedom. When a Secretary of Homeland Security sits before Congress and reframes habeas corpus as a discretionary tool for executives, every warning light in a democracy should flash red. Because if the government can claim that the president, not the people, controls the right to challenge detention, then no one is safe. Not immigrants, not citizens, not dissenters, not critics. That is how constitutional protections dissolve under the weight of political interpretation. And the Congresswoman made the emotional stakes painfully clear. Many Americans, including her own family, fled countries where the government could pick someone off the street without due process, where citizenship did not guarantee safety, where legality was irrelevant if the state disapproved of you. Those are not distant horrors. Those are living memories for millions of Americans. And yet the Secretary could not give a single clean denial that her department might hold that power today. Ask yourself, if DHS is truly focused only on the most dangerous illegal immigrants, Then, why is there documented evidence of children, cancer patients, legal residents, and students caught in their enforcement operations? Why did 10 American citizens end up deported with the explanation that parents chose to take them? Why could the Secretary not name a single mistake made under her watch? Why is the burden of clarity placed on Congress, while the executive branch hides behind bureaucratic fog? These questions aren't hypothetical. They are the difference between a nation of laws and a nation of unchecked authority. They reveal an institution more invested in protecting its image than admitting its failures. They reveal a power structure where due process becomes optional, where human error becomes classified, where constitutional rights become negotiable. And when the conversation shifted to cybersecurity, another national security cornerstone, the Secretary again defaulted to deflection. The Congresswoman pointed out that $500 million had been cut from programs states depend on to defend against cyber attacks. These are programs that protect hospitals, utilities, schools, election systems. So how can the administration claim to be the most cyber secure while slashing the very infrastructure that protects citizens? The Secretary offered vague assurances, no specifics, no accountability, just another example of institutions insulating themselves while demanding unquestioned trust from the public. The emotional arc of this moment is impossible to ignore. First comes anger that a secretary sworn to uphold the Constitution refuses to affirm its most basic protections. Then empathy for the innocent people affected by these policies, from children with cancer to students simply trying to learn. Then urgency, the realization that if Congress must fight this hard to extract simple truths, the public must remain vigilant. And finally, action, the understanding that democracy doesn't survive through silence. It survives because people call out overreach when they see it. So here is the essential truth. No one is above the Constitution, not DHS, not the president, not any department seeking to stretch its power beyond its legal limits. And here is your call to action. Share this video so others can see how power behaves when questioned. Subscribe for more breakdowns that expose what institutions want hidden. Stay loud, stay aware, and stay unafraid, because silence is the one thing that allows overreach to grow unchecked.